I want to start off with a point that we were talking about before we get into everything else.
Okay.
And you said tradition
Right.
and culture.
Right.
Those two buzzwords, when I say that to you, how do you internalize that in terms of music and just, societal?
I think that there's a relationship between what we're seeing in music, and there's a relationship between what we're seeing in families and society in general. And I think that the relationship that you have in your family is there's a kind of hierarchy where, your mum, your granddad, your grandma, your aunties, your little sister, the baby, yourself, all of that is clear. You kind of work some way out to the point who takes the bin out at night, who doesn't, who makes the dinner at Christmas, who doesn't, all of that, you work it out. But you understand it. And then when an argument disrupts, or when it all breaks down, that particular rigidity in the hierarchy is what eventually is going to hold things together. What we're seeing in the music industry is the new generation that are doing great things, that are not even waiting for anything and taking what they're owed. They're also being taught, disregard your auntie, disregard your older brother, disregard your mum, kick them all out of the house. Fuck them. It's all about you. It's all about you, sunshine. And people are believing that. And so therefore, there is no relationship going on between the older generations. Really, luckily for me in South, I've had moments where Soul Solid Crew and myself have sat down with particular groups and reasoned and talked, and then realized, we are thinking the same thing? You wouldn't have known that from the music. We've had that, but realistically speaking, in culture, for me, musically, we have to see that happen again. There is a real underlining kind of message where it suggests that if you make music and you reach a certain age, you're no longer relevant to the kids, or the kids are not relevant to you, and that's rubbish. It's all about music. When we grew up listening to hip hop, some of the heads that we were listening to, we didn't know how old Rakim was. He looked old. He had a beard. I was a kid. I didn't have a beard. But he was great. Diana Ross doesn't have that problem with Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige doesn't have that problem with Gene Aiko. Because music is music. And I think that the music industry is teaching young people that. And the music industry is kind of suggesting to the younger generation that they should consider themselves lucky and everyone else just didn't make it. And it's really up to the older generation, the younger generation, to understand that your mum and your dad and your auntie and your uncle and your little sister is still important.
Let me pick up on that though. The messaging points are clear. They call it youth culture. If you want to do social enterprise, 16 to 24s. So once you get to the age of 25, it's almost like you don't exist.
Yeah.
Just a calendar year, which doesn't make sense. The messaging points in terms of quote unquote, they aren't important.
Right.
How do you feel that's infiltrated? Do you think that's through, whether it's media platforms?
I've watched Wiley say it a lot. And I feel like Wiley is so truthful.
The Channel 4 interview, he was saying quite a lot of things. On the Channel 4 interview that he had, he said quite a few things.
He's quite truthful. He just says what he said, but he's not 100% correct in every decision he's made. So he's kind of truthful in regards to what he says and what he means. And people have taken it as a rule of thumb, like this is what it is. So you got artists like that saying things like, I'm glad I made it just before a certain, and it's like, no, bro, you might feel that way, but realistically speaking, we can't teach younger people to think that they've only got a certain window to be creative or to be superstars or to actually meet their dreams, or for their dreams to even be about music. Their dreams could be about something else, but we can't tell them that there's only a limited window for them to achieve that. So it comes across in many formats. It comes across in how music marketing is happening in regards to how they talk about young people and stuff like that, where in regards to, so only these type of videos work towards young people. It's like, so what we're talking about is programming, because the young people that I know can get inspired by anything. You can have a child sit on your lap and watch an advert and be copying that for the rest of the day. So to suggest that we know exactly what young people will be into and what they won't be into at a certain time is wrong. But that's happening right now.
And someone is making that decision.
Someone is making that decision.
Affects everybody else.
And someone is making that decision who doesn't even like the music. Most times, people that are making that decision from top down have no interest in music culture or hip hop culture or grime culture, have no interest. But they lay the rules down. Just like with the radio. Imagine if we didn't have to have a record that lasted 3 minutes 30. Now that's only because of a particular radio station rule. But now certain people actually make music that finishes at 4 minutes because they don't want to be run over that rule. But, you know, who's to say that next 20 seconds you couldn't have said something that could change people's lives?
I mean, and radio is programming.
Yeah.
It is that. And
Absolute programming. It's all programming.
Yeah. And the internet, when it came out, was almost like...
It was free.
And then you look at YouTube, did what it did. We're in a YouTube building, and that created a madness. And then all the labels came and said, wait, hold on. How do we
how
get
can we
onto
work
this?
with you?
It was disruptive. And then it gets co-opted, and then it's like, we're almost back to where it is. Almost. What I find interesting about those statements about tradition and culture is, you're Nigerian as well, right?
Yes, I'm Nigerian proudly.
So am I. And
so I want to say also, I'm one of the first people in the music industry in the UK, urban-wise, hip-hop, that actually proclaimed that. Definitely one of the first. So
before everyone felt it was cool.
Hip-hop-wise, definitely. In the UK, it wasn't cool to be African if you did urban music or you sung. No one was saying it. I made that cool.
I remember, and we all remember like being in school and there's like
African Bulla, Boo Boo, all of that.
Stink, like,
you know, Lenny Henry, Katanga, all of that was terrible for us. People don't know. Lenny Henry needs to know that. That was a terrible time for us. You created a cuss word. You created many fights with that. But the reason why I'm saying that is not to be like, oh my God, give me a medal, but it's just like, if you don't say it, no one's going to acknowledge it.
But it comes down to tradition as well. Like, you sometimes got to know your lineage and know the timeline of when things happen. Because if we look at it, if you don't say it, who will say it?
Oh, it's not going to be...
It's not going to be said or acknowledged.
No. It's not going to happen you're not going to see a chapter in the grime book about what I did.
So what do you feel, and this maybe was like reverse, but what do you feel your legacy and contribution has been to music?
I think my legacy and contribution has been to develop the voice, to develop an exciting performance style, and to definitely be unique. I think I've focused on bringing a uniqueness to being an artist that's personal. So my legacy is really, I think I'm one of the people that, young people that don't want to fit into a crowd, that don't necessarily feel like they fit in everywhere. They need to have an emblem or some sort of Batman signal in the sky that they're like, oh, I can be myself and not follow everyone. I don't need to stab up everyone to look cool. Oh, I can do this. I'm one of those people.
When you first started out, right? Because you're hip hop, right? And I think people sounds weird. It's like that. What's rap? What's hip hop? But hip hop is the culture,
right?
Everything that comes with it. And I guess.
Shall I explain what's the difference?
Please explain it to us. Because
the difference between hip hop and rap is really simple. Hip hop is the house. Rap music is one room. Rap music is the recordings, is the songs you hear, the songs DJs play, the videos that you see. Hip hop culture is everything. Hip hop culture is the fact that I wear a jumper this size. Hip hop culture, you can sit on a tube and see who's into what music, kind of, just by the way they look. That is what hip hop culture teaches you. It teaches you to kind of identify, you know, that hat and a certain jumper, a certain style.
You know your tribe.
Yeah, you know your tribe, exactly that. So that's what hip hop is. Hip hop is everything. It's hip hop is outside of hip hop music. It's the music, it's the records, it's the CDs, it's the different genres that are used to make it. It's the interest in the detail. That's hip hop. Rap is just what the DJ play on the radio, you listen to, or you dance to.
There you have it, man. and the reason why is because I look at some people who like hip hop culture, but they don't they're not happy with the rap culture, right? And they feel like it's just like maybe it's just too streets now, or it doesn't factor in the full culture of what hip hop we grew up on. And I remember, like, for example, Belly. As soon as Belly hit, everyone wanted like Averexes. Everyone wanted Averexes.
Yeah.
Like, and we're buying like Averexes, and we're like, bro, these things are oversized.
Yeah.
Like, we're looking like.
I had an Averex before Belly, but yeah.
Yeah, you go. No, but and they were like, what? How much? £200-300,
About
maybe
300,
4.
yeah, 200-300.
Yeah, and you're like, but that was a direct correlation at that point for me. And watching Belly, seeing Nas, DMX, and then we're saying we want it.
Yeah,
Or
that's hip hop.
Or Evisus, or
Evisu jeans.
or bandanas. There was
Yeah.
Rough Riders, DMX, all these things.
It's hip hop in regards to you see it in a video, you like it, it's your style, you want to wear it, you take it, you wear it, you dance with it. You know, that's hip hop. That's hip hop culture. That's all. I think there's definitely a cross line between people understanding what hip hop is and rap. So some people call themselves hip hop, but really they're just rap. They just make what the recording is. They rap. They might out rap themselves lyrically, or they might freestyle, blah, 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 but they're actually just really into rap. If you're into hip hop, then you're not just into Pete Rock, CL Smooth, They Reminisce Over You. You're into Tom Scott, the record that made that record. You're hip hop's. You're into James Brown. You're into the dancing. You're into the DJ. If a DJ, chup, 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 you're into that. If you're not into that, then really you're just into rap. You're just into some words on a beat, and that's it.
Do you feel that? So I'll say you're a hip hop connoisseur.
I'm a hip hop enthusiast.
Enthusiast, right? Do you feel that those who are just into rap is because it's the hip hop culture over here hasn't? You don't really have the. Maybe there are. I'm just saying ignorant. It's not really like a spot that it's just like we don't have a tunnel.
Right.
Like, we don't have the tradition.
You can't have a tunnel. This is England.
This is England.
We can't even have a normal nightclub with black people in it. That is not threatened by a particular police law. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that we need to recognise. People that love the culture need to fight for the culture of all backgrounds.
Right.
And at the moment, we're not doing that. Well, they haven't been doing that. Actually, people have been fighting, but they haven't fought loudly. We need to fight a bit louder. Like, we need to challenge that particular police code, because it was an absolute rubbish. It was totally made up stuff. Oh, we suspect that there's going to be... Oh, your intelligence is that good? So what? So who killed Tupac? If you got that good intelligence, can you go and solve some crimes?
Before it's even happened.
Thank you.
Yeah, who's going to come there, and I guess,
So why don't you go and see who's going to come there? Why don't you intervene?
Yeah,
why don't you stop them from stabbing?
Yeah. What initially brought you into wanting to be a rapper?
I love this question. What brought me into wanting to be a rapper was, I was a Nigerian child that was an outcast in Brixton. So I lived within Caribbean culture, but I lived as an African child in a Caribbean housing estate, Myattsfield Estate. Okay. And I just before that had come from living in the country, because I was fostered for a couple of years twice, and then I came back. And 2 or 3 weeks as I came back is when I came into school. And up until that point, when I was fostered to when I came back to South London to actually start being in school, I didn't realise, it was only then I realised that being African wasn't cool, apparently. I didn't know this. And the only thing that made me an equal or made me interesting was my ability to dance and my emerging rap talent in school. And learning how to rhyme and become myself, but at the same time have this thing that would impress others, was my gateway to being cool in Brixton, in my estate, in my school, on the playground. So hip hop did that for me.
I actually didn't even know you were fostered. I had no idea, man. Knowing what was that like, but how do you reconcile with that beginning of your life, or the period you were fostered to now being a fully fledged?
It still affects. It still has an effect. There's still a disconnect. I still, as a child, feel like I was abandoned and left. So I still have this element where how it affects me positively is the reason why I'm so unique is because I basically can absolutely stand aside from a crowd and just do my thing. I don't need acceptance. I don't need to be walking with a big crew because I'm quite clear on the fact that, wow, I'm an African child living in the UK, and two, I'm a individual that doesn't fit in with everyone else, so I've got to do my own thing. And there's a beauty in that. It's strange, but there's a beauty in actually finding yourself. I had to find myself at a younger age. Then racism and all these sort of things, I had to find the thing that would keep me going, because when you're living in somewhere, when you're being fostered in a place there's only one or two other black people and they actually live in your house, other than that, you're not seeing nothing in the area, and you're dealing with certain things as a child. I'm talking like 4 or 5.
That young?
Yeah. I was traveling on a bus at 4 or 5 to school. 2 buses and walking back through a forest.
Wait, by yourself?
By myself. So all of these things build the character and make you understand that you can do something on your own. And it's only when I came back to London that I was like, oh, I couldn't go down the road on my own. But before I was going miles and miles. But then you have to think as well, why is a foster child traveling that type of distance on their own at the ages of 4 or 5? You're not supposed to be doing that. Not really. I mean, maybe the country was more safer then, but I think we all know it's not. So it brings up more questions, but what the lessons that I learned from it was, you got to be able to stand on your own. You got to be able to decipher what is cool for you, and also you got to learn to read your own voices. Why do you feel a certain way about something? I learned my escape from early signs of probably depression was to be able to communicate via song, because that was my catharsis. That was my way of to
release, yeah.
And that's what I love about young people's music right now. I'm like, you guys should be really speaking your mind. Speaking all this fantasy stuff is cool, but you should be speaking your mind, because you need that therapy. And other people need to, there's a young kid sitting somewhere in a really bad situation that needs to hear something in your song that's going to make them feel like it's not just me, and you're denying that. You're just talking about one thing at the moment. So it's really important for us to have variety. I don't mind anything that's going on, but give me diversity.
Yeah. And that is, I mean, I'm still like just trying to think about like 4 or 5, man. It's just, it's odd. But when you said abandonment, that struck me, like, for anyone to feel abandoned, like, so for example, you could be in a job and someone says, okay, cool, like, we're going to fire you, right? That's not abandonment, but you're feeling like you're being
That's rejection.
Rejection.
Yeah.
So it's something.
It's something.
Yeah. But as a young child, did you feel abandonment, or did you only know that when you grew up that was a part of abandonment?
Total abandonment.
Total.
Yeah, because you got to understand, you're traveling. I was fostered twice. I was fostered from the years of like 8 months.
Oh wow.
To like 2 or 3, then sent out again. And what you need to understand, which is because this is the reason why I talk about these things, is not because I want a sob story scenario, but I want people to know that, look, you can tell the truth. Someone will benefit from the truth. What we don't have in this country is we don't have any documentation of what African people went through when they came here. We've got the Windrush documentaries all day long.
Yeah.
But no Caribbean person can tell me what the name of the airline that my parents came on. Nobody knows. Nobody's told the story. Nobody knows that a whole generation of people that came over that were struggling to kind of have jobs in the time when it was no dogs, no blacks, no Irish, had to foster their children. So there's a whole generation of young or old people like myself that actually have this disconnect in regards to black African culture and English culture, because they were fostered. And some of them didn't have good situations. Some of them did. So John Fashanu is an example. There's that story hasn't been told yet. It needs to be told.
Definitely, man, because as you said, like that disconnect, if there's a disconnect in that story being told, and again, it's like, I always look at it in terms of like, there's things that I know, but I think when you look at music as a way to document times, it's like people still read the Bible, but it's something that's supposed to document at the time, but that's like 2,500 years ago. What can you tell me for a truth that's happening now? And that word that you said, fantasy, is quite important.
It's quite important.
A lot of it is fantasy, almost waiting till they get the wealth.
So let me put this out there. Yeah. Because of the dedication of the Caribbean community to make sure that their story's been told, I know so much about their story in regards to how Notting Hill Carnival came about, what it was like for them in the 50s, 60s, you know, what they fought for, the things they went through, all of those things, which make me understand and empathize with the Caribbean struggle here. So imagine how much lack of empathy is there if nobody's ever told anyone else, white, black, whatever, our story as Africans in the UK. So a lot of times you're looking at us, but you don't have any understanding. There's no Colour Purple story, there's no film, there's no nothing. You know, Black Panther is the first time in my life that I've seen all kinds of black people excited about being African. It's the first time I've ever seen it. You
went to the screening?
No, I didn't. I'm doing promotional duties at the moment, so I'm on this tip all day long.
I'm gonna go see it tomorrow.
Yeah, but I'm glad. I'm very proud of it. But I'm saying it's the first time in my life,
in a generation.
Yeah, generations that I've actually seen Caribbean, African, white. Everybody is excited about an African story or wanting to dress up in African gear. I've never seen this before. It's a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful, but I think it also comes to that whole thing of like, wait, hold on. Wait, we had to wait like 30, 40 years for this one.
Furthermore, we had to wait for Disney
to okay it.
To make it cool. So we had to wait for this company over here to make it hot, and that's when you get excited about Africa. So when Black Panther's finished, you lot getting on a plane or no? Do you know what I mean? Now, here's the thing. I'm happy for it, but I'm saying anyone that's listening to me now must think, wow, I'm saying in my lifetime of my 40 odd years, I've never seen a situation where all denominations of black and white and all different people are interested in an African story. That says something. That's not a great statement to have to make. So, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, I'm hoping that this extends more and more, and I just want absolute success for that particular project.